Yeah, Navin.
Welcome, distinguished speakers, guests, and friends. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, and warm greetings to all of you. I'm Ashiria Anrud of the Netherlands, but raised in Suriname, and I'm a recent graduate with a master's degree in Management of Innovation from Erasmus University Rotterdam. This is the 310th edition of our ICC Thought Leaders Forum. We wish to sincerely thank all of you who have graciously contributed to the success of this ongoing pan-Indo-Caribbean and pan-Indian diaspora global project. For 309 unbroken continuous weeks, we have been here every single Sunday. And in the past 5 years, 6 months, and 2 weeks, we have featured 1,240 presenters speaking on 309 topics. We are pleased to have speakers and participants in this meeting from all parts of the world in different time zones. This weekly forum is being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, a legally registered research and publishing company operating since 2010. In order to improve this weekly program, we are asking for suggestions and volunteers. If you choose to give a donation to sustain this program, Dr. Mahabir would be contacted to provide details, and he will ensure that your name will be placed on our poster and all promotional materials. I'm pleased to introduce our moderator today, who is Shalima Mohammed. She is also the co-director of this ICC Zoom platform. She's a culture and heritage consultant, business psychologist, teacher, and researcher from right here in Trinidad.
Thank you so much, Ashiria. Nice to have you with us again. Assalamu alaikum, namaste, and a warm welcome to all of you. Thanks for joining us today, and to all of you all who are viewing the live stream on the YouTube channel of the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center, I want to say welcome to you as well. It's a privilege to have you all to today's program, in which we examine a compelling and often overlooked question in the history of Indian indentureship. And that is, was Reunion Island, formerly known as Bourbon Island, the first territory to receive Indian indentured laborers in the 19th century? While the British Great Experiment, so it was called, is widely associated with Mauritius in 1834, or the start of it that is, emerging evidence suggests that the French had already begun earlier efforts on Reunion Island. As early as April 15, 1828, a French-commanded vessel, La Turquoise, departed Pondicherry carrying 15 Indian workers who arrived on June 3rd after a 49-day voyage, an event that may mark the true beginning of the structured indentureship system. These movements followed even earlier smaller migrations of Indian laborers, including Leshakars and Malabars during the 17th and 18th centuries. Over time, approximately 26,507 Indian laborers were transported to Reunion. Today's discussion invites us to critically reassess established narratives and consider whether Reunion Island deserves recognition as the earliest site of 19th century Indian indentured migration. I want to welcome now our first speaker, who is a descendant of one of those 26,000 odd persons. And this is Sarmendi Kazanov of Reunion Island. She's a graduate with a master's degree in history and geography from Sorbonne University in France. She's a former pedagogical coordinator in Trinidad and Tobago. Nice to have you with us, Sarmendi. You can go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, thank you. So first, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for choosing this topic, my island, today for this beautiful sharing you have every week. So thank you for all your efforts first. So I'm gonna to introduce you about my island first. So maybe Navin can share the screen because I can. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Navin. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we're gonna to start first to show the Indian connection. Then I will show you the Indian heritage here on Renan Island nowadays. And finally, it will be like more my personal feedback about a shared culture. Okay, so Navin, can I go to the next one, please? Alors, first, where is Renan Island? So I asked the question because I know we have a lot of people from everywhere in the world, and sometimes people don't really know Renan Island. They don't know also where is it. So Renan Island is here. So as you can see, Madagascar. So it's just nearby Madagascar. Yes, the next slide, please. Okay, especially here, so you can see between Madagascar and Mauritius. And yes, can I go to the previous one, please? Yes, so you see here you have all the French overseas French territories. So I forgot to mention that Renan Island is a French island. We are like Guadeloupe, Martinique, and also like Guyana and like Nouvelle Caledonian, all these overseas territories you can see. So we are still French nowadays, and we are under the French rules. But we have this very big history and very big mixed culture. Okay, so can we go to the next one, please? Yes, again. Okay, so now we know where is Reunion Island. Start to see the Indian connection. So here we will see the different periods. So the 17th century and then few key dates. So 1828, 1848, and finally 1882. Okay, so the next one, please. So, why I put 17th century, we have an Indian presence on Reunion Island. Because we have to know, like, Reunion Island was colonized by the French people on the 17th century. So, it was 1642. And the first people came on the 1665. But before the 1828, that we have like the officially date of the indentured laborship on Renan Island, we already have Indian people on Renan Island. For example, we have around so on the end of the 17th century, some people like from Madras, so Chennai nowadays, they were in jail and they were sent to Renan Island. We also know like we have people like women, Indian women, like what we call the Indo-Portuguese woman from the north part of India, like the from Gujarat, if I'm not wrong, who came also to Renan Island. And we know also we have some Indian domestics, Indian artisans who were sorry on Renan Island before like 1828. We already have this Indian presence. Okay, can you go to the next one, please? So we know this also because like few months ago, we have a discovery on Reunion Island. So this is pictures of Temple de la Caserne. So Temple de la Caserne, it means it's a name of a Hindu temple in the south part of Reunion Island in the city of Saint-Pierre. So as you can see on the right, like the little gray panel, it's an inscription in Old Tamil saying that this temple was inaugurated on the 18th of April of 1827. So as you can see, before 1828. So this discovery, sorry, show that um, even before like the official indentureship labor, we are like the Indian people already have the right to have a temple, and so to have this liberty, this freedom to do their tradition, their religion. Okay, so the next one, please. So 1828, as Dr. Shalima said previously, we have this boat, La Turquoise, who came to Reunion Island with 15 Indian people. And so we say like is an Indian arrival on the 3rd June. But as I said, is not really the first Indian arrival because we have this Indian presence even before, since the 17th century. So we have like many people who came from India, from Yanao, and also from the south part of India. Then, in the same year, you have also 2068 Indian people who came. So we know we have like people who were like out of caste. We have also people like 27 Muslim, Indian Muslim. We have also like 13 farmers and five fishermen. And the other one was like weavers. I don't know if I pronounce it well in English. So what is the indentureship on Reunion Island? It means these people, they have a contract. They have a contract of 3 years with a salary, accommodation, and also the transportation. So, and for sure, of course, they have this liberty to have their own religion and so to have temple. That's why in yes, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Like a lot of people come also for the factory, for the sugar factory. So nowadays on Reunion Island, where you have sugarcane factory, you still have like this temple, and you still have like a community of Indian descendants. Yes, so I said the contract. And what is also interesting and to see that on this period, we still have the slavery. So on Reunion Island, during like many years, you have like the cohabitation of slavery and indentureship labor. It's two different things. Okay, can we go to the next one, please? Then this date, 1848. Okay, why I put this one? Because on the 20th December of 1848, it's the abolition of slavery on Reunion Island. So it means the French people need workers because we don't have slavery anymore. So they will they will ask to Indian people to come. And we have like a big migration of Indian workers who came to work in the plantation essentially. So we know we have more than 100,000 Indian workers who came from India. Yes, can you go to the next one, please? So this is like the little houses, what we call like the camp of the Indian workers. So on the sugar factory, so you have like the factory, and around is like this. This is the habitation, the accommodation of the workers, the Indian workers. So here you can see the word Malabar, who is nowadays Malabar. It's the name we use to yes, to call, sorry, the Indian people, especially from the Indian who were Hindu, and especially from the south part of India. Okay, the next one. So these pictures, you can see a group of Indian people, Indian workers, of the year of 1860. So why I show this picture is because we can see that we have more men than women. So you have one, two, three, four, five men and only two women. And this picture describes very well also the proportion of women during this migration. So we have more Indian men than Indian women. That's why from the beginning the Indian were mixed because we didn't have like enough women, and so from the beginning, like the Indian men also mixed with the other population of the island. The next one, please. Okay, so here we have a picture of a celebration of Pongal. So Pongal, I think people know what is it, so I will just say it briefly. So Pongal is a celebration we have in Tamil Nadu at the beginning of the year, so around January, especially like for it's like an agriculture celebration and also a Hindu agriculture celebration. So you have here like it's from 1872. So we can see like the Indian workers have this right to celebrate their celebrations. And still nowadays, we still celebrate it. And what is interesting is to see like nowadays we still have this agriculture calendar. And that's why all the Hindu festivities, a lot of them, I mean, are at the end of the year because it was still like before they got their free day on the at the end of the year, and also with like the record of the sugarcane and so on. And so this is like in Beaufort. Beaufort is a sugar factory in Saint-Benoît. So Saint-Benoît is a city on the east of the island. Okay, can we see the next one, please? Yes, so I show you this one because the indentureship labor is not only Indian. We have also the Africans, people from Madagascar, and also Chinese people. But the Indian population in this migration represent 70%. So that's why we have more than 1,000 Indian people who came to Renan Island during this century. Okay, the next one. So many workers could also go back, sorry, to India. Not all of them. That's why we still have Indian descendants nowadays. But some of them also went back to India. What's also something I forgot to mention at the beginning is like these people went to Renan Island because some of them they wanted to go because sometimes they were out of caste in India, so they wanted like to have a better future, like to maybe save money like that, and the contract was quite attractive for them. But also some of them were forced to go. It was also like we can say human traffic because, for example, you have people who were kidnapped and sent to Renan Island on the ship, and that it was like a human traffic because you have Indian people who kidnapped the other Indian and sold them to the French people until they went to Renan Island. And sometime after, but they got everything there, like I mean everything, like at the end they get married, they got a land, so they decide to stay. The same, you have some people who went back, and some people also who went back to India, but then decide to go back, sorry, to Renan Island, and other have too many, how you say that, money credit, and so they had to stay because they earn money and like this, so I are forced also to stay here on Renan Island. Okay. Alors, 1882, the 11th of November, is officially the end of the internship labor on Renan Island. I say officially because after this date, we still have some boats who came not only from India, but from also Africa. Yes, so the next slide, please. So now Malabar and Zahab. As I said previously, Malabar, sorry, is the term we use to design the Hindu population nowadays on Reunion Island. And Zahab is the term we use to call the Indo-Muslim. So the Muslim who came from India, so from the Gujarat for most of them. So one community is Malba and the other one is Zahab. Like in Trinidad, we just say Indian Trini, but in Reunion Island, we have these two different words. Before I go to the next one, or maybe we can keep the question at the end. It will be better like this. So now I'm gonna to, yes, the next slide, please, Navin. So now we are gonna to see the Indian heritage nowadays. So I will focus more about the Malabar community, but I will also say a few things about the Arab community. Let's see the other slide, please. Yes, maybe. Can you change the slide, please? Yes, so we will see the Indian heritage. So in the traditions, the food, the music, also the religion, of course, the architecture. So let's start with this one. So at the right, yes, you have like a very old temple, and you can see like is a quite simple style. This is like still have this type of temple nowadays, are very simple, and is like the first temple were more like this. And people prefer to have this kind of temper, as you can see on your left. So it's more like the Dravidian style, like we can see in Tamil Nadu. So this is typically like the what we call here in our local language, the tabissement, chapelle tabissement. It means like, as I said before, factory, okay, a sugarcane factory, and then you have a temple, and then you have like a district of Indian descendants nowadays. So before it was the Indian workers. Uh, and yes, nowadays you have these temples. It's still here, but sometimes they decide to rebuild it like the Indian style of the Dravidian style. So this kind of temple we have first start, I think, to disappear, and now we have more like maybe the same numbers, this other type of temples. Um, okay, the next one. Oh yes, sorry. So this is interesting to see also like the architecture. So if you come to Reunion Island, in all the cities where you have a factory and like all the city around the sea, you will find like this type of temples everywhere. So you recognize immediately this architecture. Let's see now like the different Hindu festivities we have. So the first pictures you have, like with the people in pink, it was we call what we call here in on Reunion Island the Kavdi. So the Kavdi. I know some areas in India we say Thaipusam. So we have many all the year. So under you have what we call Marche sur le Feu. So Marche sur le Feu, it's like the firework, like the Timidi in Tamil. And the same, we have many marches sur le feu during the year, especially at the end and beginning of the year. So December, January. Also nowadays we have like more or less every all the year. Then in the middle, I put this because we can see like this is typically like Hindu festivities for the goddess Mariamman. I put Mariamman because we are on the May, yes, the month of May, and this is a Mariamman festival. All the months you have it everywhere on this island. So as you can see, we keep like Hindu tradition, and especially like the village Hindu tradition, with what we call here in Creole, in our local language, the caron. And the last pictures, you have what we call the tel. So we put like a statue, and this tel, so this is also a Tamil word, will go around the district. Okay, the next one, please. So here a video of a typical procession we have on May for the goddess Mariamman. So I don't know if you could see properly the video and hear the sound, but what it was interesting to see on this video is like, I don't know if you noticed, but the women were wearing also the sari. So that's also another type of Indian heritage we have. It's about our clothes. So now today we wear like saris, like for the men, what we call the vesti. So they will put on men, and this recently we have more also lehengas because we still have this influence of India and also of Mauritius. So can you play please this video? Okay, so the second video I show you because this is typically like a Malabar function, so we call like the service. What I mean is like, as I showed you previously, you have this big temple in the city, like this big temple around the factory. But you have also, like in many Malabar family and Hindu family, they have their own little temple, like the private temple, the familiar temple in the garden. And then sometimes, like once a year, they will do like a function in their private temple and invite a lot of people. And when I said invite a lot of people, it's not only the Hindu people, but people from like any ethnicities from the island, any religious aspect, like everyone can come, like the people that, who are invited. And then we will have like a traditional Indian Rayonese food. And as you can see on the video, we eat in banana leaves. Okay, can you show the next one, please? So let's talk about the food now. We have this Indian heritage in our food. So the first one, it was we call bonbon miel. So miel means honey. So it's like our local jalebi. And then we have under the samosa. So samosa is like the from samosa, but it's like more smaller. And you have also what we call le bonbon piment. So it's like with beans and pickles. It's like you can see in Tamil Nadu, they call it, sorry for my Tamil, it's very bad, vada. And is our local vada. Then this is typically what we can eat during an Indian function, like Malabar function, I mean. You have the rice, you have like a specific type of curry where we use a lot of masala actually. And sometimes it can be vegetarian or sometimes you can have meat. The meat, it will be like masala goat or masala chicken. And also wine chicken because we are also French. And like, yes, so some salad. And sometimes you have typically only vegetables. And we eat in banana leaves with our hands during this function. Okay, the next one, please. So we have also the Indian heritage in our language every day. First, you have the Zarab community. They still use Gujarati. They can speak also sometimes Urdu and Hindi, French and Creole. So what is Creole? Creole is a mixed language you can find in many places in the world, and every place have their own Creole. For example, in Mauritius, they speak Creole. On Rhode Island, we have our own Creole. So we can understand each other, but it's quite different. And in our Creole, so it's a mix of French and other language, we have a lot of Tamil words. mixed Tamil words now with a French pronunciation. So let's see what are these words. So please name it. Alors, so yes, Creole Réunionnais. So that was how we call our local language. In Creole, we say Creole Réunionnais or Creole Réunionnais. Alors, I don't know if I have Tamil people here who are watching, but for example, in here on Reunion Island, we say Kalupile. And Kalupile is from the word, a Tamil word, which is, can you please show the next one? Kalive Pillai. So sorry for my Tamil, I know it's very bad. And so it's this leaves we use a lot in our dishes. Okay, the next one. So then we have masale. So masale is quite transparent. It's from masala, but in here we say masale. The next one, please. Alors, then we have kari, kari, or kari, and is also from the Tamil word kari in Tamil language, as we can see. So then we will say kari for everything. For example, kari poulet, so it's a chicken curry. But we don't say curry chicken, we say kari poulet. And you can have curry of a lot of things. Then Zashar. So Zashar is from a Hindi word this time. So achar. Achar with that means in English, in English, in Hindi, pickles. And here is a kind of a mix of vegetables, and sometimes we add like pickles too. And it's very tasty. And we have to know, like, not only the Indian community eat this, but nowadays is really everyone eat this type of food. It's common to all the island. Then we have the word rugai. So rugai is also from Tamil language. So I don't know how to pronounce it in Tamil. So urugai, I'm not sure. So we will say rugai. For example, for rugai tomato, so a tomato pickles with like onion sometimes. You have also like the rugai saucisse, so it's like sausages with tomatoes, with spices, and we call also rugai is when we have a mix of tomatoes and something else. Then morum, this one is my favorite. So morum is also from Tamil language, and we call it morunga. And something is very amazing is like we cook it exactly like in India, mohole. The taste is really the same. Okay, next one. Kotomili. So kotomili is also from Tamil, and so we use exactly the same, and it means coriander. I think in English we say like that. Yes. Then this one, so paillasson and larson. Alors, paillasson is what you call in Tamil payasam. I'm sorry for my pronunciation one more time. And larson is what we call larsam. It's just you can see like the French pronunciation, like the am becomes on. Okay, and I think I have one more. Then yes, in the family members, we use Anna, Aya, Tombi. So Anna for the big brother, Tombi also like sometimes you can say, oh, Tombi like a friend, brother, and Aya is more like when we have respect for someone who is older. Alors, goni, so goni, we use this, and it's from the Hindi word, who means like just a bag, and it's exactly like that. It's like a old bag when sometimes you can have a vegetable inside, and then we can use it again for another purpose. Okay, let's see now the music, the Indian heritage in the music. So we have this, as you saw previously in the video, I think you hear like the Indian drums. So here we have what we call morlon. The first one in the middle you have like we call naslon. We use it a lot for the Hindu rituals. Then you have the tambour and the tarlon. So all of this we use for Hindu festivities, but not only for the Hindu festivities, because we have also the traditional music called Maloya in here in Renan Island, was from more Africa, and nowadays we mix a lot with also the Indian drums. And you can see from the very young age they start playing. They learn like this during the Hindu festivities to play like this, and this is how also we transmit. Okay, the next one quickly because I think I will over time. Yes, so now is more like a personal point of view from my part as an Indian descendant. I am the fifth generation here, and we have a shared culture. So a shared culture first, of course, with India, but not only with India. It's like you do every week, like this sharing with all these people from the Indian diaspora everywhere in the world. And what I can notice is like we really have something in common. So I'm from Indo Island, but I was really lucky to have this opportunity to live in Trinidad and Tobago more than 1 year. And it was really interesting for me to see like all we have in common, for example, in Trinidad with the Indian Trini community. When I reached there, like I didn't feel at all like a foreigner. I was totally included in the Trini, the Indian, first by the Trini people because they are really welcoming, but also very strongly by the Indian Trini community. And I think this is really a bond we all have, even if you can go to Mauritius, maybe to the Fiji Islands, to Reunion Island, to the Caribbean one, we will have this in common. And I want to say sometimes more even than with Indian from India, because we have this mixed culture, like this island vibes, this island mix, this Creole culture, and we create our own also Indian culture in a certain way. For example, I remember when I was in Trinidad and Tobago for the food, you have also an Indian food, and the taste was very similar to what I have here on Reunion Island. I remember the first thing they told me is, "Oh, you are gonna to taste roti here." I was like, "I know what is a roti." I'm from Reunion Island. Like in Mauritius, they eat that a lot, and we have also this Mauritius influence. The same, you have also this like Diwali. We really celebrate Diwali here on the Reunion Island, but in Trinidad and Tobago they celebrate also, but in a different way. So it was really interesting from my point of view to experience both of them. So yeah, I think this is really a strong we have nowadays as Indian descendants is to be able to adapt everywhere in the world actually because we have this background. Yes, something I will mention is like in Trinidad and Tobago, you have more the North Indian culture influence. I remember, for example, people say mandir, and first I was like, "What is a mandir?" And then I understand like is the word that they used to say temple. And here in Reunion Island, we have more the south part, the Tamil Nadu influence. If I talk only for the Hindu community, the Malabar community, and not like for the Muslim one. And so we say Kovil, like we use the Tamil word, for example. So yes, I think that's a really chance we have as Indian descendant from all these diaspora to have this bond between each island and each territories. Yes. So do you have any questions?
So, Tarmandi, excellent presentation. And I'm so glad you were very comfortable when you came here. Nice to hear that.
Yes, yes, I can talk about Trinidad for all a week.
Terrific.
Yes.
Ranbir has his hand up. Ranbir, go ahead, please. You need to unmute your mic.
Oh, sorry, I apologise. I'm on the phone because I'm at work. So, great presentation. I wanted to, and by the way, the term Mandal and Corval, in the UK, Corval is used for Sri Lankan South Indian temples. I do go to one for Shani Puja, so both Mandal and Corval are used here. The thing I was going to ask you was, so the first indenture went in 1828, slaves abolished 1848. Did the indentured labourers get citizenship? Because in 1848, former slaves were given French citizenship. Algerians were pointedly not given it. Or were the indentured labourers treated, I think the category is called indigenous or something, not citizens, they're below that, which is what the majority of Algerians and Senegalese and Vietnamese, the rest were. So what actually happened really in Ireland when slavery was abolished? Were they be citizens or were they treated as the subclass of indigena?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand all the
Sorry, I was
question.
talking too fast. I do apologize.
One second, please. Ranbir,
Yes.
may I ask you, you speak very quickly, and
Mhm.
here Sir Mandy is originally a French speaker. So may I ask you to
Yes.
please repeat just the question and please do so slowly. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Sure. I'll just think of time. Um, I was going to ask, 1848, slavery was abolished by France. And as
Yes.
far as I know, former slaves got citizenship. Algerians were pointedly not given citizenship. Yeah. There's a category called indigena rather than citizen. So right up until 1962, independence of Algeria, though it was part of France, they weren't full citizens. So were the Indian indentured labourers in the Reunion, were they made citizens, or were they classified on the other category of indigena, which didn't have full rights?
Okay, I understand now. So about the citizenship, I'm not sure to have the right answer, but what I know is like the Indian workers, they have the status of freemen. So I don't know if I think they're still considered like foreigners, like in Indian people. If I'm not wrong, and this is what I think. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe another speaker will correct me later. But I think that they don't have the French citizenship because they have this contract with France. So, but
Right.
I think maybe someone else will clarify the question and give you like the proper answer. But
That's
thank you,
fine.
that's a good question.
Thank you.
Good, thank you. Dr. Shadanan, go ahead, please. Dr. Shadanan, just unmute your mic, please.
I have unmute. Okay, thank you very
Yes.
much. And it is a great presentation, Vidya. I have one very important question. Do you have also an arrival day of the indentured laborers? Because you have mentioned two days. I think wasn't 1828, and you mentioned also 1882.
Yeah.
What are the difference with the first question? Do you have an arrival day in India?
Recently, when I said recently, like maybe a few years ago, we have this date of the 3rd June, 1828, like an Indian arrival date. But to be honest, when I was younger, I never heard about it. But my family every year celebrate the 11th November 1882 at the end of the Indian indentureship. And I remember when I reached Trinidad and Tobago first, they told me, "Oh, today is Indian Arrival," and I was like, "It's a day off. Everyone is celebrating like the Indian Arrival," and I was like, "Oh, on my island we know more about the end of this. We don't really celebrate the beginning of it, but like the end of this system." But nowadays, like last years ago, I see like on the media they also now do something on the 3rd of June around this day to say like this was a river. But during long time ago, it was just the 11th of November. Then people know. And when I say like people know, actually is only certain people. Because if you ask this to people on my island, they will say, we don't know. To be honest with you,
Okay.
not everyone know this. I know this because I was lucky to grow up in a family very traditional. We celebrate it, everything like that. We have a very important about the past, everything. But not everyone know this, to be honest.
I think the date you mentioned in December, that was also for the abolition of the slavery and indentured
So
labor. In December they are celebrating it, as I know.
yes, so
Is
the
it okay?
20th of December, 1848, is the abolition of slavery. So the system of slavery with like the African slavery, and also we have also, I remember I saw something about like a Indian. The first slave was an Indian child actually on Rhode Island. But then after the abolition of slavery, they need like Indian workers. So it's two different things because they don't have the same status like the laborers or the laborers. and the slaves.
Okay.
But nowadays we can see every 11th of November and till recently, like the 3rd of June, we can see in the media they did something like some cities organize like a little thing, like association organize few things to celebrate it.
11
It's more
November.
like a tribute to the ancestors.
Okay, and the other one, 1882, why you mentioned this year?
This is because it's like the end of the indentured laborship. This one.
Okay.
November 1882. Yes, I know I mentioned a lot of dates, so I hope now it's more clear.
Do you feel more French or Indian?
That's a good question, because I also live in India for 1 year in Chennai. And I remember because I look like Indian. So all of them thought immediately I was Indian and was shocked when I opened my mouth with my strong French accent. And was like, why you don't speak Tamil? And then I explained them my history. But to be honest, I feel from Reunion Island. We really have this Indian island roots. I can't say I'm Indian. I don't say I'm Indian because Indian is really like a nationality. When I was in India, I can see I'm not an Indian. I can adapt. I can understand like the tradition, the mindset, everything, but I'm not Indian.
Happy.
And I am like really from Reunion Island with this Indian culture. That's why I say like the Indian diaspora on these islands is really different. We create something, and it's different, for example, from the Indian diaspora from French mainland. It's not the same because we really create a kind of new
I
culture actually
understand.
because we keep the old Indian ways.
Maybe dual identity or hybrid identity, we have to find out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Very interesting, Samadi. I appreciate the fact that you share that you're not an Indian, you're really an Indo-Reunion
Yes.
niece.
Yes,
If we want to share
because
it. Yeah,
when you go to India, you feel like yes, you can adapt, but it's different.
it's different. Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. But you hold on to that Indian heritage, you still appreciate the culture, and you still engage in
Yes.
all things Indian in your country reunion. Yes?
Yes, and what is really nice also to see nowadays is like even like the cities will celebrate, for example, the Tamil New Year. They will celebrate the Diwali, and I think it's helping like the Indian descendant also to keep this culture. For sure, we have evolution. Few things are changing. As I told you, for example, with the architecture of the temples, for example, that's a very good, I think, example. And also, for example, my grandparents and my parents told me before we celebrate Pongal, like it was really a big celebration. And nowadays, people celebrate more Tamil New Year. But back in the days, they didn't really know Tamil New Year. It's something quite new, like this last maybe 20, 30 years. But before, my grandma told me like Tamil New Year, she didn't really know this. She know like Pongal, like the other celebrations. So we still see like new, new differences. And nowadays, they celebrate Holi on my island. Before we didn't celebrate Holi. Like Pagua is very known in Trinidad and Tobago, but there was more. I never heard about it here.
Mm-hmm. Huse is something we celebrate here as well. Were you part of Huse when you were here?
Of course, I went to Arangues to celebrate Pagua with a lot of people, and they didn't know that I was not Trini. They were shocked when I opened my mouth every time. They were well from here, and I used to say I was from Chaguanas. Yes.
Fine. Did you celebrate Huse at all? Huse was
Which one? Sorry.
the night procession from from St. James.
Muharram. They may know it as Muharram.
Muharram.
No, no, I celebrate only Diwali, Pagua, and also like I went to deep in San Fernando, in a big mandir to celebrate Shivaratri with a friend who carried
Shivaratri.
me there. It was, and that I really saw the difference because it's really like the Hindi influence. Like people start to dance like in the temple, and I was like, oh really? Like we don't do that on my island, and I was like, quite it was really interesting to see like these differences of celebration because we have more like the Southwest influence. And in Trinidad, and you're also a festive population. So I think this is also why.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So we're going to move on now to our second speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Jean-Regis Ramsamy from Reunion is a television journalist, a historian, and genealogist. He discovered the date of arrival of the first shipload. I don't think he discovered the date of arrival. I think that is rarely credited to Firmin Lakpatia, if I'm not mistaken. But Jean shared with us that the first shipload of Indian indentured laborers came to Reunion in 1828 on June 3rd. He's unavoidably absent, but he has prepared a pre-recorded presentation, and we will share that with you now. Navin, can we have that, please?
Good morning or good evening. I regret not being able to join you live at this moment. Here in Reunion Island is 11 p.m. For some time now, Mrs. Shalima and her colleagues have been asking me to participate in an online session of this topic, but it has been postponed several times for practical reasons. A clarification is necessary. I am not the first to speak about La Turquoise. The name of the schooner had already appeared in the work of several historians, including the Reunionese historian Roger Paquiri. I began to take an interest in the subject around 30 years ago. I had grown tired of attending conferences, for example, ODI, GOPIO, IDC, or the Apravasigat in Mauritius, where people would speak about their ship, while we in Reunion Island were unable to mention ours. This was troubling me. I even wondered whether we were the forgotten diaspora or the forgotten child of India. Today, I can announce that after years of research and observation, we have succeeded in identifying the exact date of arrival of the first ship that carried the very first convoy of indentured laborers, along with all the related detail. The discovery was made in 2021. No one in this panel will fault us for relying exclusively on written archives, as we are well aware of the limitation of oral tradition, especially after more than 150 years. Despite the existence of a doctoral thesis of indenture, it required persistence and an acceptance of a long-term time to solve this historical equation. This marked the beginning of a fascination history of the first indentured laborers of Bourbon Island. What we discovered while exploring the archives of Saint-Denis de la Réunion. On June 3rd, 1828, in the late morning, the schooner La Turquoise docked at the Barachois, Saint-Denis. The first official convoy to Bourbon carried 15 Indian workers. The vessel, commanded by Mr. Prévost de Langristin, had departed from the small port of Yanao of the southeast coast of India on March 16 in the year of 1828. This voyage, though decisive in the history of Indian immigration, had never been full trust of revealed since the 1980s. Historians and researchers from Reunion, the Indian Ocean region and beyond, had attempted to determine the arrival date of the first convoy. Even renowned scholars from Reunion Island, including the late Professor Sudel Fuma, had explored the question without obtaining conclusive answers. Others had formulated hypotheses based on wind patterns or navigation practices of the time, but without success. In my own research, I also consulted specialists from the Indian Ocean and the Caribbean. Eventually, while reviewing once again La Feuille hebdomadaire de Beaumont, issued of June 7 in the year of 1828, I came across the crucial information. This newspaper reports that on June 3rd, in the year of 1828, La Turquoise docked at the Barachois Saint-Denis. It also states that the schooner stopped in Pondicherry before heading out to sea on April 15. In the year of 1828, en route to Bourbon. I should note that La Turquoise was a modest vessel. No image of it exists. You may see a drawing of a similar ship that resemble it. Following this major discovery, I propose that the local Indian Federation pay tribute each year by gathering in front of a memorial established by the community in the year of 2015 during the visit of the Minister Mahesh Sharma. I would like to mark also Ashok Ramsaran for encouraging me to support this project in Réunion following the installation of the Kolkata Monument in 2011. On June 3rd, in the year of 2022, the first commemoration was organized in urgency in Saint-Denis, nearby the Océan, in front of the memorial to Indian workers. It symbolically marked the arrival date of the first ship carrying Indian laborers. I would now like to present the situation of our diaspora and the conditions surrounding the arrival of La Turquoise, which we know now occurred on June 3rd, 1828. We now have irrefutable proof. And now, before the arrival of La Turquoise. On December 6th, in the year of 1827, during a session of the Private Council of Bobo, the decision was made to introduce a first group of contracted Indian workers to the island. The idea was promoted by the notable Nicole Robinet de la Serve, who influenced colonial leaders already anticipating the dismantling of slavery. They were not prepared to invite newly freed individuals, former slaves, to sign a labor contract under calm conditions. To the question, was La Turquoise the first ship to transport Indian to Bourbon? The answer is yes. Dear friends, I know the question you're all asking, and forgive me for anticipating the discussion. Does this make La Turquoise the first ship transporting indentured Indian laborers, the first batch of the coolie trade? Our answer is yes. It's natural that question arise where these Telenga introduced to Bourbon pioneers of Indian immigration. A comparison with dates from other countries reinforced the idea that it was on Réunion soil at the beginning of the 19th century that the first experiment of Indian indenture began. Of course, small groups from India had arrived earlier to work in the region. For example, in Bourbon in the 18th century and also in Mauritius, workers and artisans, sculptors, carpenters came to build the island's first structures. This predates June 3rd, 1828. By the end of this period, 20 years before abolition of slavery, there were already about 1,000 Indians in Réunion Island. This does not diminish the fact that around 5,000 Indians were forced to work under slavery. Together with historians of the island, we agreed that these earlier relatively modest movements do not correspond to a definition of indenture, which truly begins with the arrival of La Turquoise. In Réunion Island, we say langagisme. La Turquoise may be the conclusion. Upon arrival, the 15 Telenga cultivators were placed with 3 colonial notables, Fréon, colonial councillor, Malavoie, landowner in Saint-Suzanne, and Jamin, landowner in Sainte-Marie. However, the ship met a tragic end. La Turquoise was lost in a major cyclone in 1829 that destroyed several vessels around Réunion Island. Rare documents describe the first 15 workers as paria, Telugu people from Andhra Pradesh region. Interestingly, the schooner also carried a significant sum of money in gold coins. In French, we say louis d'or, a continuing challenge for Réunion living together. Conclusion: despite being of this island for nearly 2 centuries, we live without knowledge of this fundamental fact. The arrival of La Turquoise must be understood within the broader movement of Indian labor migration to other countries. The ship Atlas, for example, arrived in Port Louis in 1834 with the first coolies. After 2 centuries of silence, Réunion reconnect with a decisive movement in history by rediscovering the arrival date of the first ship carrying Indian workers. For us in Réunion, the discovery is as significant as the establishment of the Indian consulate in 1986, or the opening of an air route between Réunion and Chennai, or even the recent arrival of Indigo flight on April 29 in this week. The discovery opened new epistemological perspectives also. As for the future, the emergence of historic tuna in the cultural landscape pose no threat to the continuity of the November 11 ceremonies as the Lazaret of Grand Chaloup in Réunion. This intercultural event continue each year, bringing together descendants of the community that shape Reunion African, Chinese, Comorian, European, and Indian echoing the distant refrain of Basse-Terre Song, a local group. They arrive by boat, ils sont arrivés par bateau. We emphasize that La Turquoise restores a fundamental place to the overall understanding of Reunion history. There is still much to discover about La Turquoise. This ongoing historical journey continues to inspire us. It's far from over. Even the picture of the schooner remains to be uncovered. For the past 5 years, the Tamil Federation, with the support of the Indian Diaspora Council, IDC, run by Professor Ashok Ramsaran, has commemorated the arrival of La Turquoise annually. In 2 years' time, we will mark his 200th anniversary, and we are planning a grand celebration. I will stop here, friends. Your questions are most welcome, and my email is known to all. We can continue to exchange on the arrival of La Turquoise. Thanks.
So, thank you very much to Dr. Ramsamy there for confirming the dates upon which the Indian indentureds would have left India via La Turquoise and then ended up in Reunion Island. I also really appreciate the fact that he brought up December 6th, 1827 as the actual date on which the decision was made to have contract labor begin. And now I'd like to ask Ashok, I know that you are here. Would you mind please unmuting and just give us an idea as to what exactly has been taking place on Reunion Island as a result of your efforts to recognize Indian heritage, Indian indentureship, and the Indian arrivals on Reunion Island?
Dr. I will have to make him co-host.
Yeah, looking at the dashboard
Thank
to
you.
see if I see him.
He's right on the chant.
Under where?
On the chant Gupta. His name is right on the chant.
Mhm.
Oh, give me a minute. If anybody has any question by then. Under Chan,
He's not too far from the top. Dr. Shadana, then Chan, and then his name is in the chat.
okay.
Oh, what was the question
Yes.
again, Dr. Mahabir?
No, I'm not seeing Ashok.
Let me, I'm just going to claim host and do it.
Yeah.
Right, so he's co-host now, so you can take back over if you want.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Ashok,
can.
welcome.
Yeah. Do you have a question?
Yes, please. I'd just like you to, I know that you were typing information in the chat, but that's not visible to our YouTube audience. And I know that you played an integral role in the observances on Reunion Island of the arrival day and probably placing a monument there. Can you just tell us what you've actually done to assist with the arrival day celebrations, placing of a monument perhaps, and anything else that you've done on Reunion Island to mark the arrival of the Indians there?
Firstly, the French migration from India to the French colonies was handled separately from the British. When they arrived at the first place was Reunion, perhaps because it was closer to India, and then subsequently to the French Caribbean islands, Martinique, Guadeloupe, and partially Guyana, French Guyana. But the difficulty was that the French did not preserve much of the documents as the British did. And so much of that was lost. And I worked very closely with Dr. Jean Regis Ramsamy and others to make sure that the government of India give some credence to the origins of people of Indian origin living in these colonies, because there is very little documentation. And so, together with the Minister Sushma Swaraj, we came up with a scheme that says alternate documentation would be acceptable. And so, up to 6 generations later, that was agreed upon. But from that point on, it was possible for people of the French Francophone countries to be able to apply for PIO cards. And they were embraced and brought into the fold of the Indian diaspora. And I'm very happy for that. As far as the monuments, based on 2011 Calcutta Memorial, which I was instrumental in getting done, the French, the PIOs of Reunion Island started their own campaign, and we supported that. Eventually, one was set up there. But at the same time, Guadeloupe had one as well. And it was in the middle of the public square in Guadeloupe. And we campaigned for it to be the first arrival, which became Martinique, which was actually Martinique. And Mahin Punswami and GIO of Europe and myself, that was in 2024 that the monument was set up on the beachfront of Martinique, where the first ship arrived. So that is in a short essay on my efforts to collaborate with the PIOs of the French colonies.
And as always, we really appreciate all your efforts, Ashok. Thank you very much for doing that. And thank you very much for joining us in the program today to share that information, especially in the absence of Dr. Ramsamy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Thank you. So there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, because Dr. Ramsamy is absent, we do not have an opportunity to pose any questions directly to him. But feel free to put your questions in the chat if you would like a response from him directly. We can always forward the questions to him and get the responses back to you at a later date. So thank you very much. We want to bring on now our third speaker. And Dr. Mahabir, please guide me here. Is Dr. Deva Kumaran tall? His situation, has it improved at all, and he's able to now join us and speak?
His desktop doesn't have a camera, and there's no audio on the desktop as well. So he is unable to be.
So he's
for us
unable to
see him or
present.
hear him. Yeah.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Dr. Kumaran, thank you very much for being with us. We really would have liked to hear from you today. However, we will probably try to get you on another program when your technical issues are a little bit improved. Thank you so much. We bring now our fourth and final speaker, and this is a very special person originally from Fiji. This is Dr. Naren Prasad. He's an economist with the International Labour Organization. He also researches labor migration, historical injustices, and the legacy of indentureship as a form of slavery 2.0. It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Prasad.
Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon, or good night to you all. Thank you for the warm welcome, Shalima. And thank you, Kumar Mahabir, Doctor, for inviting me for this panel. A great session, Sharmidi. Lovely to hear you. And also from Dr. Regis. Was looking forward to hear from Professor Deva Kumaran, but unfortunately we can't hear. I just want to mention a few things before I share a few of my slides. I mean, I don't have much to contribute to the Reunion Island per se, as Shalima mentioned. Here's a personal thing that I want to mention. I am married to somebody from the Reunion Island, and I've been going very often there. And as Sharmidi was saying, I belong to the reunion too. Although I'm from Fiji, I have been to Trinidad. I belong there whenever I go there. I go to India. I belong there, as Sharmadi was saying. So that's the beauty about this Indianness that we all have. So reunion, I have been going for a number of years. And in fact, I took my mother-in-law a couple of years ago to Pondicherry to do a ceremony for her ancestors. That's where they had left. But the history, as Dr. Regis and Sarmidan were talking about, it's a little fuzzy there. It's not easy to get details of what happened, where people came from. Not only the time factor is there, over 150 years or so, but I think I'm particularly interested in looking into the French and the British colonial system. One, the assimilation with the countries, French, which did the assimilation, like you have to become part of France. Therefore, the question of citizenship came there, and that I'd like to mention something there. And the British system, which left the Indians to practice their own religion, culture, traditions, divide and rule was their mantra. And as a result of those two different, very different colonial experiences, France, the reunion has, in the process, reunion managed to lose a lot of important historical details that now we are trying to go back and rediscover. That's what Dr. Ramsamy was talking about, trying to discover the first arrival date. And in fact, this story here, I want to mention one more small anecdote, the link between the Indians, between Reunion Island and Fiji. There's a small anecdote where 31 Indians from the Reunion Island, the Zangajé, were taken to New Caledonia first, because New Caledonia belonged to France, to see if they could cultivate sugarcane there. In fact, it was not very successful, so they were very unhappy in New Caledonia, those 31 Indians. Many of them moved to Fiji. So that's the connection. It was in 1879 they were taken. And when they went to Fiji, there's an island called Te Viuni Island, which is the third largest island of Fiji. Most of them settled there. And they married and they stayed. So that's the connection that I discovered recently between Reunion Island, Fiji through New Caledonia, and our Indianness. There's somebody who has a hand up. Praveen, would you like to say something?
Well, why don't we take his question after?
All right. Okay. All right. So coming back to, there was a question, if Sharmindi would allow me to say that the question of the citizenship in Reunion Island, it was, I mean, what I have heard from my family, the Reunion side, is that it was not easy to practice the religion or the traditions during the indenture system. It was very difficult, and in order to get the French citizenship, you have to assimilate. So you have to change your name, you have to speak French, you have to be Catholic, so you have to change your religion and everything. That was the trend. Therefore, the getting the citizenship was not automatic. It was a process of naturalisation. You had to prove that you belonged to France, then only you were given the citizenship. The children of the indentured laborers gradually were integrated in the French society, therefore they got their citizenship. But it's only after 1946 that everybody in the Reunion Island became French citizens. That's what I was told, what I know. So that's something that I want to mention as an anecdote, and to answer some of the questions that was mentioned. In fact, I had my slides, but hearing all what you have mentioned, I really feel intimidated by all the expertise that you all have, and I am not a researcher myself for the Reunion Islands. However, while working with the International Labour Organization, I have done some research to show that indeed the indenture system, either be it in the Reunion or Trinidad or Fiji, all links to the question of forced labor, or what I call slavery 2.0. And all the indicators of forced labor that we have corresponds to exactly what happened. I mean, Sharmidi very well mentioned that most people, in fact, well, not most people, some people moved, who went onto this indenture system because they were miserable. They wanted to get away and find another life. But most of the people who went to these islands were trafficked. My ancestors, I have discovered my great-grandparents who had moved, my mother's side, they went from Uttar Pradesh, beside, I mean, a village called Kannauj, and I went to that village and I got the stories from them, what happened. My great grandfather mother's side, in fact, he was basically captured more or less, and nobody knew where he went. That's the story I got from the village when I went there, and all the family is there. So they have no idea where he ended up, right? Similar stories from my great grandfather, the father's side. Similar story. He came from Faizabad, also in Uttar Pradesh, towards the border of Nepal and Ayodhya. Similar story. So most of the people did not know how to read and write. I have my great grandparents, you know, that thumb, the immigration pass, it's a thumb, like your signature. Like I'm sure many of other islands in the Caribbean have similar stories. So it was not a choice. That's what I want to mention. Most of the people were trafficked, were, you know, if I'll read the indicators of what we call forced labor in ILO, number one is abuse of vulnerability. And that is exactly what we are talking about, abuse of vulnerability.
Dr. Prasad, excuse me. May I ask you, I felt your research was absolutely needed, and would you mind just sharing that slide with the audience? Thank you very much.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, I'll show it to you. Let me find it to the slide.
Sure.
Yeah. There you go. So this is the slide that I wanted to show you.
Great. Thank you.
So the forced labor. Can you see the slide? Right. Can you see the slide, please?
Yes.
You have to enlarge it.
All right. Right, there you go.
Slide.
So the first indicator was basically abuse of vulnerability. That's something that we have looked into, and we found there was a lot of abuse, those who were taken. Question of deceit, the deception, false terms of reference, where the people were going destination, they didn't even know that. And one of the professors in Fiji, the former Professor Bridgelal, has done a lot of work on these issues about the indentured laborers, the Girmitias. And he also found out that the people didn't know where they were going. They were told that, in fact, Mauritius or Fiji is just 2 hours in the boat, and you will be there in 2 days, and you will make lots of money, and you can come back with lots of money. All these things have been documented. The other issue about the other indicator about what forced labor is about restriction of movement. So once you were on those camps that Sharmidin was showing, in those coolie camps, you were not allowed to go more than 2 miles from that area. You were supposed to walk on those sugarcane plantation. That's again a condition of forced labor. Isolation was another barrier that was created, language barriers. You were put in states. That's another indicator that we have really documented, and it shows that it was basically forced labor. Withholding of wages, there were fines in kind, and especially if you were late or something happened, there was a lot of misery. The debt bondage, that's another indicator of forced labor. When people took money to go, or when they were there, they had the bonded system, or even to go back to India, they had to have the money to go back. It was not a free passage to go back home. Menace of penalty was again an indicator of forced labor, the jail terms, the contract extension, or hard labor. Physical and sexual violence is another indicator of forced labor. Abusive conditions, overcrowded barracks. I mean, we have been hearing all these things. Excessive overtime, peak hours of working during harvest time, retention of documents. They had no documents, the passbook. All these things leads us to believe that indeed there was forced labor, or what we call slavery 2.0. And then we looked into in detail about the recruitment issues of how people were recruited by the Arkatis, targeted the poor, illiterate, or the famine-hit areas in Awadh, in Bihar, in Uttar Pradesh, in Tamil Nadu, promises of short terms, very high wages. So these are all well documented. We have an indentured laborer called Totaram Sanadhya, who wrote a lot about his experience in Fiji when he went back to India, and he told the misery of what was happening in Fiji. And that Sanadhya's pamphlet was read by Mahatma Gandhi when he was in South Africa. And that's how he got involved in this in the issues of the indentured laborers, how they were treated in those colonies. And in fact, he sent one of his associates, Mani Lal from Mauritius, to go to Fiji to look into what was happening. So all these things are very well documented. And what was happening on the plantation, for example, again in Guyana, I mean, I'm sure you all know how miserable it was. In fact, one of the things I want to mention, that I knew my grandfather, so I used to talk to him. I used to ask him, what did your father tell you about how he came and how was the conditions? In fact, most of the time he said he doesn't know, because his dad will never talk about that, because there was a taboo topic that nobody wanted to talk, either because it was too painful, or they didn't want to go back to the miseries, the painful experience they had. So it was, they would just, block and not talk a lot about those things. So those were the miserable conditions. All these also shows that there was these economic cohesions about debt, wages, return passage, and all, if you've put together all these 12 indicators, either it's in the Reunion Island or Mauritius, Fiji, Trinidad, Guyana, all leads to what we would call the legal framework in terms of indenture as slavery 2.0. But nobody talks about that. What I want to mention here is that's my mother-in-law going to Pondicherry to at least have a ceremony and put some flowers in the ocean to remember her ancestors. What I also found in Pondicherry, there is the reunion people that have put a plaque in one of the universities, the University of Pondicherry, of the route of Indian walkers. It's quite nicely done, but again, that's very private, and it's not for the public. What I'm saying is that last year I was presenting a paper about this issue in London. And while I was walking to the conference, I was going to the conference, I crossed the Hyde Park. I don't know if you have seen this monument in the Hyde Park in London. It's what they call animals in war. When I saw that monument, beautifully done, all the animals that were taken in the war, killed, and who served the British Army, the animals, the horses, the donkeys, the elephants, the dogs, the mules, they have a memorial in London, in the heart of London. And there was a nice word that was written, they had no choice. And it really gave me goosebumps. So when I went to the conference, I was thinking about, well, most of our ancestors did not have a choice neither. And here we are having a monument for the animals at war. But does London have a monument for all the Indians that were taken to its empire, its colonies? Does London have a monument to say something about those workers? I don't think so there's any. In India also, it's very limited. One of these, I mean, you are alluding to, it's in Calcutta, but again, it's in the port, which is quite private. It's not a monument that everybody can see about that. It made me write an opinion piece in the Indian Express last year, where I looked into some of those elements, why India, where the biggest, I mean, it was a part of that colonial system, and England that basically orchestrated that, as Sarmedin was talking about trafficking of labor, are not able to recognize what they have done. So those things led me to question that we need to do something about that. You know, I'm just showing you, this is my mother, and I was born in that hut. Same thing like my great-grandparents were born. So if I'm mentioning, if we don't talk, who else will talk in place of them? It's just to honor our ancestors who endured all these things. That's why I'm talking about these things with passion and emotion, to bring to the world what people in the Reunion Island, where I identify myself quite a lot, to people in Trinidad, in Guyana, in Fiji, where I come from. There's no celebrations in UK or in India to honor our ancestors. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. I'm also learning like you. So thank you very much for having me.
Dr. Prasad, you hit the nail on the head, so to speak, with that very, very poignant statement that there ought to be a memorial just like the one in Hyde Park to mark our ancestors arriving wherever they arrived and the contributions that they've made to the enrichment of Britain. I want to thank you very much for raising that and for all the other very important points that you raised. I'm seeing a comment in the chat. You all, at this point in time, I want to invite you, if you are joining us for the first time, or you've been with us many times before, please go ahead. If you would like to ask a question or make a comment, we invite you to do so. You can raise your electronic hand. It's in the reactions button at the base of your screen. Please feel free to raise your hand. Okay, 2 participants. Dr. Shadanand, go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that is a very important what Dr. Nared Prasad has presented. I want to ask you, sir, uh, do you know if they are, I think as I can conclude, no, the, the voluntary aspect of indentured labor is mythology. That's one. Second, uh, some colleagues of mine is speaking about bonded labor, and you are speaking about forced labor. Is there a difference between these? Thank you very much for your presentation. That's for now, my question.
Should I answer that?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Okay.
Please do.
Thank you, Shardanand, for your
Thank you.
very interesting question. Bonded labor is one of the indicators of forced labor. And as I mentioned to you, having that bondage is one of the indicators of you are forced to go and work, not on your will, but because you have been bonded with a family or you have a dad or whatever you have. So that's part of those 12 indicators I mentioned. It's part of forced labor. But now the concept of forced labor has changed recently from 2014 onwards, which now includes the issues about human trafficking and modern day slavery. But the bonded labor is part of forced labor. Forced labor is a much broader concept. Bonded labor is one component of forced labor. I hope I have answered your question. But in many cases, there was no voluntary willingness to go and work in these countries without knowing all the conditions. And as you and we all know, most of the people did not know how to read and write. And from the lower caste, poor, and whatever you call them. So there was no issue about going to this system of engagé, what the French call, or the indentured laborers, to go on a voluntary tourism trip. That's what they would have thought. But it was really harsh conditions. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'll ask Samandi, you wanted to make a comment. Please go ahead, do so now.
Yeah, thank you. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. So, really thank you, Mr. Naren Prasad, for your presentation. And thank you because what you said for Fijis is also the same for Reunion Island. For example, they couldn't go out from the of the camp without the authorization, everything like this. And actually, what you said about your great grandfathers, I have the same history. So what I said, like some of them came because they wanted, and also some of them were kidnapped because that happened to the grandfather of my grandma, so my great grandfather too, and so he was a child, and so it was not allowed before like to have just a child to go like this by himself, but he was kidnapped by Indian in Chennai and sold to the French people and went to Reunion Island without knowing anything about the island. My grandma told me the story actually and explained me like when her grandfather reached my island, so he was just a child, 14 years old, something like this. He went to hide. He were hiding in like the forest during like a few days without nothing, and then people find him, and finally then he became like a worker there. And many years after, one of his brother from India came to my island to find him, like his little brother. They were able to meet apparently, and so the big brother said, "Yes, I came to take you back," but he refused because he said it's too late. He had now his wife on my island. He has like the land, everything, and so the big brother went back to India. So That's also happened like to my family. So we know we have like a family in India, like because our ancestors had also brothers and sisters there, but we don't know them anymore. And something I wanted to add to is I forgot to mention in my presentation is like the family name, the Indian family name on Rhode Island uh, were also transformed, like with a French pronunciation. That didn't really happen with like the British colonies. For example, when I saw the Indian family name like in the Fiji, in Mauritius, and Trinidad, we can recognize like the Indian name. But on my island is really different writing and different pronunciation. It's still like Indian, but with like French pronunciation and French writing. And something also I will add on what I have to say, and then I give the other to speak. Something you said also, like the difficulties for the Indian workers to protect the religion, and that's true. They officially they could have temple everything, but for example, in my district where I am from, my family always told me like before back in the days, uh, like the owner like of the using the factory, he didn't like that, and so the Indian workers have to hide to do their rituals at night and then remove everything. And then in the 60s, so after 1946, when we became officially a French department and not anymore a French colony, so everyone were French citizen after 1946. But even we had few things. For example, the Hindu. If you for example, when you went to the church, I mean, like people were saying like, don't do Hindu thing, that the evil, that's not good, be careful, everything like this. And you have a lot of people nowadays on my island, the Indian descendants. They are also Christian. They also went to the church, everything, but then go to the temple, like do both because before they have to go to church, everything. And nowadays, like the new generation, I think some of them, not all of them, like we stop, for example, go to the church because we say, okay, like actually it was something our ancestors did, but not really feel it. So you have a lot of in the Rhode Island Hindu people who are Christian and Hindu in same times. And the same before we were forced to have a French Christian name. We couldn't have just one Hindu name, for example. And this till in the 80s, like in the 1980s. So my big sister, she was born in the 80s, and when my dad went to recognize her and giving a Hindu name and just one name, the officer say no. She has to have also a French name, and that's in the 80s. But we fight, and my parents fight, and finally they were able to have only one Indian name. And that is really recent. It's just like 40 years ago. It's not so far. And one more thing I will add is about like previously we were talking about the arrival date, Indian arrival date on Reunion Island to put like on the 3rd of June. And personally, I don't know if we could really say is 3rd of June. Why? Because as I said in my presentation, we had a Indian community before this date. So if we say like is like an official date, is like also we forget that from the beginning we always have Indian people almost here on my island. If we have this inauguration of this temple in 1827, it's because we probably have an important also Indian community in the south part of our island, and we have also buildings. We know like Indian people built this building, like we have a museum on my in my district in the case. So that's it. I finish. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tamandi. Dr. Prasad, would you like to reply to any comment that she made?
Yeah. Thank you, Shalima. I mean, it's beautifully said. I mean, all those stories what she mentioned, I hear that when I go to the Reunion Island, and my again very personal, right? My mother-in-law's father, he's a quite well known, who was quite well known person in the Reunion Island. He built one of those temples, in fact. So his name was Augustin Catapoulet. He was. I mean, I'm sure you know Reunion people know him. And he used to tell us the story. I mean, not he, but my mother-in-law was telling stories how he managed to create the temple exactly along the lines that the Sharmidi was mentioning. But at the beginning, it was extremely difficult to practice those religion traditions because the French rouleau compresseur, like the machine that goes, you have to be French, you have to have your French names. Like most of the people who are born in my generation or before in the Reunion Island have Christian names. Because that's how you would integrate in the society and be considered a French citizen. It's only recently, as you were mentioning, that there is a revival. For example, my cousins' kids are all Hindu names. There's no more Christian names. Jayanti, Akshay, these, and So I think all these names I think they have taken over, and there is no shame about that. They don't have to be seen within those lenses that you have to be assimilated because they are French anyway. So I think that since the 1990s and 2000, there's a revival of that Indianness that Dr. Regis Ramsamy was talking about, that people like him, and I think Ashok Ram Saran and other people, other scholars have been researching and trying to create those kind of movements where it recognizes indeed the Indianness that contributes to the identity and culture of the Union. It's not only folkloric; it's part of their DNA. So yeah, absolutely. I hear you. What Sharmidin you mentioning. Whenever I go to Reunion, it's the same story. It's fascinating. Yeah. So thank you for that.
Wonderful. So let's take Ashok, your hand is up. Let's just take your comment very quickly, please.
Okay. I want to respond very briefly because I know you're running out of time. The difference between forced and bonded labor. Let's be fair and say the following. The people were recruited from India to the colonies, whether British or French, because of there's a need, a mutual need. And there was famine in India by all measures of all standards. And at the same time, there was emancipation in the colonies. So there was a perfect need on both sides, a mutual need that was satisfactory. Abundance of people who want to escape the poverty, as well as abundance of people who want to escape poverty, as well as the need of the plantation owners to continue their business. So there was a system of recruitment, and it was like agency. Right now, the same thing is happening in the Middle East with the Gulf states of Indian workers. But let's go back to indentureship. 5 years, they were signed. Some of them were fooled, and they were given false promises, whatever. It happened. Then they arrived at the colonies, and they were asked if they want to re-sign, and majority of them re-signed for another 5 years and eventually settled in those places. A few of them did return to India, and they were either scorned or they found that the conditions in their villages the same or worse. So they scampered back, found a way to come back to the colonies. So the conditions were worse there in the villages, famine and all of that. And regardless of the harshness in the plantations, they opted to stay in the colonies or return from their villages to come back, and eventually they built better lives. But the recruitment was there. Majority of them were not forced, but they were promised based on false promises. But they found the system in the colonies better than the villages they had left. So it was perfectly mutually beneficial in majority of cases for the plantation owners, for the British and French government and for the laborers, indentured laborers. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Prasad.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, then Professor Ashok Ramaswamy, you're spot on. You're spot on what you said. There was the perfect scenario where there was famine, misery, and therefore these recruiters were there. They came at the right time, and bingo, let's go. And that's exactly what I had mentioned when we look into the indicators of forced labor. The first indicator is abuse of vulnerability. Abuse of vulnerability. And that's exactly what happened. These people were poor, there was famine, and therefore they were vulnerable. And somebody comes and let's go. That's one of the indicators that the international community describes as forced labor. I totally understand how it was done. You can explain how it was done, beautifully executed by the British and the Indians, with the French and the Indians, beautifully executed. However, if you go back and see one of the indicators, as I mentioned, it's abuse of vulnerability, and it was abuse of vulnerability. The other element could be deceit. I mentioned deception. We promise you that Mauritius is like 2 hours in the boat, right? And then you'll be there, you'll make lots of money, it's a paradise, and you'll come back. Now you're saying that when some did come back and they returned, very few did that, not majority. Our research has shown only few did the return person. For example, Fiji was one of the latest experiments of this indentured system from 1879 to 1916, where 60,000 Indians were brought. Very few went back because there were conditions on going back. You had to get your money, and since they have all left their family, their home, and also nobody has talked about this concept of Kala Pani, the black waters. If you go beyond the black waters, you lose everything. Even Indians still talk about that Kala Pani, right? The black waters. You are not allowed to go beyond those black waters. It's like you're gone, you never come back. So all these cultural elements that were included, so they didn't go back to India. Some did, as you mentioned, but a few of them, right? So all the other indicators I mentioned about being forced labor, I think we have demonstrated in our research that all corresponds to the indentured labor system. Now, you can justify it as an academic. This was done perfectly well. Absolutely, I fully agree and endorse that. But when we go back to those history and look with those indicators and do our field work and research, I think we have to say what it was, and not to be shy away from what it is, right? As that's what we are saying. It was forced labor, or even further was slavery 2.0, and I maintain that. Thank you for that.
Dr. Prasad, I want to thank you very much for that. And as you raised the topic of Fiji, I'm saying this to you as well as Dr. Pravin Kumar, who is waiting with his hand up. Dr. Pravin Kumar, I sent you a message via WhatsApp, but I'm not too sure if you've read it as yet. We want to host a program on Fiji on May 24th. I know, I believe Satya Dutt is in the audience. He has also been invited to speak. May I ask you, Dr. Naren Prasad, and may I ask you, Dr. Pravin Kumar, would you all speak about Fiji on May 24th?
Yes,
Yeah?
I will, Samia. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. So we will send you some further information with the focus that we want to take for that conversation. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much. I want to ask Dr. Pravin Kumar, would you like to make a very quick comment or ask a quick question about reunion?
Okay, I'll make a quick comment. And the background of my photo is actually the island of Taveuni where the Girmitias landed. And that was the fish sugar mill there. So Naren, I'm also from Fiji. I went to your village last year. asked the lady at the shopkeeper where your house was, but she had difficulty to give me the direction. But very quickly, there were 3 lots of Girmitias who were taken from New Caledonia to Taveuni. One was 33, the other was, I think, about 44, and the other was about 50 people from about 1872 to about 1878 or 1879. I have met couple of people whose ancestors actually went from Reunion to New Caledonia and then to Taveuni. And in 1970, when British gave independence to Fiji, some of those South Indian Tamils, and there were some who were mixed Portuguese, they left Fiji. And I don't know whether they went back to South India or they went to France and Portugal, but they are also descendants of some of those people who were taken to Fiji prior to 1879, and they live in different parts of the world. And they were taken to work on 3 large copra plantations. And one of the reunion person who came actually ran a shop in South Taveuni and their generations for many, many years. And they also assisted their generations in building the South Taveuni primary and secondary schools many, many years ago. So their contribution of what they did to the island of Taveuni and assisted the white plantation owners to become so rich, and they are still filthy rich, and nothing has been documented or written about that. It's very sad. And I actually rang, as probably Naren said and some other speakers, I rang the High Commission of France in Australia, in New Caledonia, in Reunion, and they said there are no records. They said if it be, there'll be some records in Paris somewhere in the government department, but very slim chances. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's bring Ken Sulaim very quickly. Ken? You're muted.
Yes, I just wanted to point out, based on Mrs. Samadi's presentation, there was a map, and it showed lines out of India, and these are also the natural trade routes because of the winds and so forth. The Indians, much prior to any of the European colonization, had trading all through that region. So there would have been established Indian presence in all of these places long before the Europeans. I was wondering if anyone had any archaeological evidence of that to corroborate that theory, because again, Indians traded all over the regions of Arabia, Ethiopia, and the islands and so forth that are in the Indian Ocean.
Excellent question, Ken. We have Dr. Mark Hauser in the audience. I wonder if he might be able to add anything. Dr. Hauser? Not too sure how much work was done.
In other words, what I'm saying is history didn't start, Indian history in that region probably did not start with the Europeans.
For sure. Dr. Mahavir, would you
Yes.
like to add anything?
Can I reply, please?
Sure.
Yeah, so what I know is like Reunion Island was known by also Portuguese, by Arabic people also. So you have map, like very old map where you can see Reunion Island with other names named by Arabic people and Portuguese people. But what it said is like the European, like the French people, were the first country who really wanted to have the island and to start like a population colony. So in French we say colonie de peuplement. So if I translate in English, like a colony of population to bring people here. It doesn't mention that they have like a native population before. They say there was no one on this island. So I don't know if these Indian people know about Reunion Island before, but till now I didn't know any proof of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarmandi. Dr. Hauser would like to unmute, please.
Yeah, he can speak.
Hi. Of course, I just always want to begin that archaeology always presents provisional history because things always change. But to the best of our knowledge, both Reunion and Mauritius, while they were known by navigators, were really not humanized until about 500-600 years ago. And so they were not necessarily places where there was habitation. In fact, in Reunion, for example, because there was no evidence of human habitation prior to the European colonization, there actually was not an archaeologist assigned to Reunion until relatively recently, in the past several decades, because of the way that France defined archaeology as prehistory. But that being said, certainly navigators probably knew about these islands. But whether or not there was human settlement, that's really something that there's really no archaeological evidence.
Okay, thank you very much for clarifying. Much appreciated. I know I saw another hand up. Uncle Sham. Is
Where's
Uncle
Sham?
Sham still here?
Yeah, he's
Yes?
here.
Please go ahead if you can unmute.
Sham, you can speak. Unmute. Sham, unmute. Maybe he has some difficulty.
Maybe some problems with the mic. And okay, while we wait for him, I know I believe it was Mr. Krishna
Krishna.
Padiachi,
Yeah.
whose hand was up. I
Mhm.
took note of all the questions that you raised in the chat. And interestingly, we had some other speakers who should have spoken on this program. Unfortunately, for various reasons, they were unable to join the panel. So I think we need to have a session 2 on Reunion. And Mr. Padiachi, I'm going to share your questions with some of those potential speakers to hope that they have them addressed in their presentations. So even if we don't have answers for you today, we will get those answers for you. Aksham, one more time. I'm seeing your hand up. You can go ahead and unmute your mic, please.
He's not unmuting.
He's not unmuting. Let's see if he's saying anything. Okay, well, that's unfortunate, and I'm not seeing anything I'm not seeing anything from him in the chat. Yes, and Dr. Bala, I've already sent your question to Dr. Jorigis Ramsamy. So as soon as he's able to reply, we'll forward that to you. He also has your email address and he can send that directly to you. I hope we haven't missed anyone. I hope we've addressed all the questions and concerns from today. So I'm seeing messages in the chat. And Chand, you know we love you very much. Our program on Fiji was especially with you in mind, as well as all the others from Fiji who join us. So we will be.
Thank you, Shalima.
Yes, I know, Chan. Dr. Mahabir, I didn't say anything to you, but you know, we have to dedicate a program to Chand in particular, and that one on Fiji is for Chand.
Okay, good.
That's so nice of you.
We love you, you know that.
Same here.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a very, very enlightening session today, and I want to thank all our speakers very much for their time, their expertise, and being here to. I was so moved by what Dr. Narayan Prasad said about that memorial having to be set up. Really, really means a lot. So thank you all very much. And at this point, I'll let Ashiria make a comment or two and close. Thank you.
Thank you, Shalima. You've been a great moderator as always. For me, it was really interesting because it was a lot of new information. So I enjoyed it. So I also want to thank you all to take your time. It was a long session to participate and to attend today. As was said earlier, this is a public meeting being hosted by the Indo-Caribbean Cultural Center. Feel free to contact the ICC to publish your books. Remember, we are asking you to kindly give us your suggestions or a donation, so your name will be then placed on our poster and all promotional materials. Please contact Dr. Mahabir for this. Our topic next Sunday will be Mahadai Das, an iconic writer and activist of Guyana. Thanks to our planning team led by Dr. Kumar Mahabir and Shalima Mohammed. Thanks to our IT consultants Navin Mangal and Daryl Gronsam. Thanks to Daryl again for designing the poster. Please visit, like, subscribe to our YouTube channel to see all our past recordings. Thank you all.
Thank you. And before the billboard starts, happy belated birthday to our sister from Guyana, Dr. Sita Shah.
Thank you very much for joining and staying this late. So we look forward to you to join us again every single Sunday at this time. I'm going to end the recording so Shalima and I can have our planning meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was such a pleasure, Dr. Prasad. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. Thank you.
So we will be sending you information for our May 24th program, and Dr. Pravin Kumar as well, Satyadat as well. We have confirmation from Dr. Subhash Apana as well that he will be speaking. So I want to thank you all so much. Samandi.